The day I discovered my husband's second family. I was wearing my favorite yellow dress and holding a chocolate cake I'd spent 3 hours perfecting. It was supposed to be a surprise for his 45th birthday. The surprise, as it turned out, was mine. I had driven across town to his office, past the usual Friday afternoon traffic, rehearsing the look on his face when I'd walk through the door. Marcus loved chocolate cake. German chocolate, specifically, with extra coconut pecan frosting between the layers. I'd burned my finger twice getting it just right. The sting was still there as I pushed open the glass doors of his building. "Is Marcus Brennan available?" I asked the receptionist, a young woman with perfect nails who barely looked up from her computer. "He's at lunch," she said flatly. "Won't be back until 3. I smiled anyway. "That's fine, I'm his wife. I'll just leave this in his office." Her fingers froze on the keyboard, just for a second. But I noticed. She looked at me then, really looked at me, and something flickered across her face. Pity, confusion, I couldn't tell. "His office is the third door on the left," she said quietly. Too quietly. I thanked her and walked down the hallway, my heels clicking against the polished floors. The cake felt heavier with every step. When I opened his office door, I expected to see the usual chaos. Papers everywhere, coffee cups stacked on his desk. His favorite baseball cap hanging on the coat rack. Instead, I saw photographs, lots of them, not of me, not of our wedding day or our trips to the mountains. These were new. A woman with auburn hair and a bright smile. 2 little boys in matching soccer jerseys. All of them with Marcus, arms around each other, laughing. Looking like exactly what they were. A family. The cake slipped from my hands and hit the floor with a dull thud. Frosting splattered across my yellow dress. But I didn't care. I couldn't stop staring at those photographs. There was one pinned to his bulletin board. The woman kissing his cheek. The boys holding a sign that read, "Happy Birthday, Daddy." Today's date was written at the bottom in childish handwriting. My legs gave out. I sat in his chair, surrounded by the evidence of a life I knew nothing about. My hands trembled as I pulled open his desk drawer. Inside were birthday cards, drawings from the boys, a lease agreement for an apartment in the suburbs. Our suburbs. 10 minutes from our house. I don't know how long I sat there. Time collapsed, minutes felt like hours felt like seconds. Eventually, my phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "Running late. Don't wait up for dinner. Love you. Love you." The word sat there on my screen, glowing with a cruelty that took my breath away. I looked at the photographs again. At the woman who didn't know I existed. At the children who called my husband Daddy. At the life he'd built while I was at home, folding his laundry and planning birthday surprises. I stood up slowly, my legs still shaking. I took one of the photographs off the wall. The one with all 4 of them at the beach. Marcus was holding one of the boys on his shoulders. Everyone was smiling. I folded it carefully and slipped it into my purse. Then I walked out. Past the receptionist, who wouldn't meet my eyes. Past the security guard, who asked if I was okay. I nodded because words wouldn't come. I drove home in silence, my yellow dress stained with frosting, my mind blank with shock. It wasn't until I pulled to our driveway that the tears came. Not sad tears. Angry ones. The kind that burned as they fell. I had given this man 15 years. 15 years of cooking his favorite meals, supporting his career. Putting my own dreams on hold so he could chase his. And the whole time, he'd been building a second life. A better life, one that didn't include me. I walked into our house. Our perfectly decorated house with its matching furniture and framed wedding photos, and I saw it all differently. Every piece of it was a lie. The couch we'd picked out together. The kitchen table where we'd eaten breakfast every morning. The bed where he'd held me and whispered that I was the only woman he'd ever love. All lies. I sat on that couch and stared at the ceiling until the sun went down. I didn't turn on any lights. I didn't make dinner. I just sat there, feeling the weight of 15 years pressing down on my chest. When Marcus came home, it was after midnight. I heard his keys in the door. Heard him humming softly to himself as he walked inside. He flipped on the light and jumped when he saw me sitting there in the dark. "Jesus, Claire, you scared me," he said, laughing nervously. "Why are you sitting in the dark?" I didn't answer. I just held up the photograph. The color drained from his face. His mouth opened, then closed. He looked like a fish gasping for air. It would have been funny if it wasn't destroying my entire world. "Claire, I can explain," he started. "Don't," I said. My voice was steady. Calm. It surprised both of us. Don't you dare try to explain this. He ran his hand through his hair, a nervous habit I used to find endearing. Now it just made me sick. It's not what it looks like, he said, the most predictable lie in the history of lies. It's exactly what it looks like, I said. You have another family. Another wife. 2 sons. How old are they, Marcus? How long have you been living this double life? He sank into the chair across from me, his head in his hands. 5 years, he whispered. 5 years. The number hung in the air like a death sentence. 5 years of birthdays and holidays. 5 years of tucking those boys into bed while I waited for him at home. 5 years of lies every single day. Do they know about me? I asked. He shook his head. Does she think you are divorced, or did you tell her I'm dead? Claire, please. Answer me. She thinks I'm single, he said quietly. That I work a lot. That I travel for business. A bitter laugh escaped my throat. And me? What am I supposed to think? I love you, he said desperately. I still love you, Claire. This doesn't change that. Get out. I said. We get out of my house. Claire, we can work through this. We can go to therapy. We can. Marcus. I looked him straight in the eyes. If you don't leave right now, I will call the police. I will call your office. I will call her. And I will tell everyone exactly who you are. He stood up slowly, his face pale. You don't mean that. Try me. We stared at each other for what felt like an eternity. Then, without another word, he grabbed his keys and walked out the door. I heard his car start, heard him drive away, and then I was alone. Completely, utterly alone. I should have cried. I should have collapsed. But instead, I felt something unexpected. Relief. Like a weight I'd been carrying for years had finally been lifted. I walked upstairs, took off my stained yellow dress, and threw it in the trash. Then I stood in the shower until the water ran cold, washing away 15 years of my life. The next morning, I called a lawyer. Her name was Patricia, and she had a reputation for being ruthless. When I told her my story, she didn't gasp or offer sympathy. She just said, let's destroy him. And we did. It took 6 months, but we uncovered everything. Bank accounts I didn't know existed. Properties in his name alone. Life insurance policies listing the other woman as the beneficiary. Every piece of evidence painted the same picture. I was the fool who'd been left behind while he built his real life somewhere else. But here's the thing about being underestimated. People forget you're paying attention. They forget you're capable of fighting back. Marcus tried to make it easy on himself. He wanted to split everything 50-50. Keep the house, give me some money. Move on quietly. But Patricia had other ideas. She found the clause in our prenup. The one that said if either of us committed adultery, the other got everything. Marcus had forgotten about that clause. I hadn't. When we went to court, his lawyer tried every trick in the book. They argued the prenup was outdated. That 5 years wasn't really adultery if he still loved me. That I was being vindictive and cruel. But the judge didn't care about their excuses. The law was the law. I got the house. The cars. The savings. His retirement fund. Everything. Marcus walked out of that courtroom with nothing but the clothes on his back and a bill for child support. Because yes, I made sure those boys got what they deserved too. It wasn't their fault their father was a liar. As for the other woman, I never spoke to her. I didn't need to. She'd figure it out on her own. And she did. 3 months later I saw on social media that she'd left him. Apparently. Finding out your boyfriend of 5 years has a secret wife tends to kill the romance. People asked me how I survived it all. How I didn't fall apart. The truth is, I did fall apart. Just not in public. I cried in the shower. I screamed into pillows. I spent entire weekends in bed too exhausted to pretend I was okay. But I also rebuilt. Slowly, piece by piece. I took the money from the divorce and started always dreamed of. A bakery, small, cozy. Filled with the smell of fresh bread and chocolate cake. The same chocolate cake I'd made for Marcus that day. Except now, I made it for people who actually appreciated it. I enrolled in art classes, something I'd wanted to do since college but never had time for. Turns out, I'm pretty good at painting. My teacher said I have an eye for color. I laughed when she told me that. I'd spent 15 years being colorblind to the truth right in front of me. I made new friends. Real friends. Women who didn't ask about my marriage or why I was alone. They just showed up with wine and listened when I needed to talk. And slowly, the sharp edges of betrayal dulled. The anger faded. Not because I forgave Marcus, I didn't. But because carrying that hate was like drinking poison and expecting him to die. 3 years after the divorce, I ran into him at the grocery store. He looked older. Tired. The kind of tired that comes from living with regret. He was alone, pushing a cart filled with frozen dinners and cheap beer. "Claire," he said, his voice uncertain. "Marcus," I replied evenly. "You look good," he said. "Really good. Thank you." There was an awkward silence. He shifted his weight from one foot to the other. "I heard about your bakery. Congratulations." "Thanks. Look, Claire. I just want to say, don't." I interrupted. "Whatever you're about to say, don't, it won't change anything." He nodded slowly. "I know, I'm sorry. For everything." I looked at him, then really looked at him. The man who'd promised to love me forever. The man who'd built a secret life while I trusted him completely. And I felt nothing. No anger. No sadness, just indifference. "I hope you figure out who you are someday," I said. "Because the person you pretended to be, he wasn't worth knowing." I walked away before he could respond. And as I pushed my cart down the aisle, I felt lighter than I had in years. That night, I sat in my little apartment above the bakery, a glass of wine in one hand and a paintbrush in the other. The canvas in front of me was half finished. A sunrise over the ocean. Bright and full of possibility. I thought about the woman I used to be. The one who wore yellow dresses and baked cakes for men who didn't deserve them. The one who apologized for taking up space. Who made herself smaller so others could feel bigger. That woman was gone. In her place was someone stronger. Someone who knew her worth. Someone who refused to settle for crumbs when she deserved the whole damn cake. People always say, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger." I used to think that was garbage. A platitude people threw around to make themselves feel better about suffering. But now I understand. Betrayal didn't break me. It broke the version of me that was built on lies. And from those shattered pieces I built something real. Something mine. The bakery thrived. Customers came from all over town for my German chocolate cake. I hired 2 employees, both young women starting over after their own heartbreaks. We were a team of survivors. Feeding people comfort one slice at a time. I started dating again, slowly, carefully, nothing serious. I went on coffee dates and dinner dates, and even a terrible blind date that ended with me sneaking out the bathroom window. I laughed more than I had in years. And then I met Daniel. He came into the bakery on a rainy Tuesday afternoon, soaking wet and asking if we had anything warm to drink. I made him a hot chocolate with extra marshmallows. He stayed for 3 hours, talking about books and music, and the stray cat he'd adopted that refused to use the litter box. He didn't ask about my past, didn't pry or push. He just existed beside me, easy and uncomplicated. On our 3rd date he asked why I'd started the bakery. I told him the truth. All of it. The yellow dress. The photo divorce. He listened without interrupting, his hand warm around mine. When I finished, he said, "That must have been hell." It was. I admitted. "Are you glad it happened?" The question surprised me. No one had ever asked that before. I thought about it. Really thought about it. "Yeah," I said finally. "I am." "Why?" "Because I like who I became after." He smiled at that. "Me too. We've been together 2 years now. It's not perfect. We argue about stupid things like whose turn it is to do the dishes and whether pineapple belongs on pizza. But it's real, and after 15 years of fantasy, real is exactly what I need. Sometimes people ask if I ever think about Marcus. About what my life would have been like if I'd never found those photographs. And honestly, I do. But not with sadness. With gratitude. Because if I hadn't walked into that office, if I hadn't seen the truth, I'd still be living a lie. I'd still be the woman in the yellow dress, baking cakes for a man who didn't love her enough to be honest. Instead, I'm this woman. The one who owns her own business. The one who paints sunrises and drinks wine and laughs too loud at bad jokes. The one who knows that being alone is better than being with someone who makes you invisible. Last week I got a message from Marcus's oldest son. He's 18 now, about to graduate high school. He found me on social media and sent a simple message. "My dad told me about you. I'm sorry for what he did." I stared at that message for a long time. This boy who didn't ask to be part of this mess. Reaching out to apologize for someone else's sins. I wrote back. "Thank you for saying that. But you don't need to apologize for him. You're not responsible for his choices. I hope you're doing well. And I hope you never treat anyone the way he treated me. He replied immediately. I won't, I promise. And I believed him. Healing isn't linear. Some days I'm fine. Some days I'm angry all over again. Some days I see a yellow dress in a store window and have to walk away before the memories flood back. But those days are fewer now. The good days outnumber the bad. I've learned that forgiveness isn't about letting someone off the hook. It's about releasing yourself from the weight of their betrayal. I don't forgive Marcus for what he did. But I've forgiven myself for not seeing it sooner. Because here's the truth no one tells you. When someone betrays you, you blame yourself. You wonder what you did wrong. What you could have done differently. You twist yourself into knots trying to understand why you weren't enough. But the thing is, it was never about you. Marcus didn't cheat because I wasn't pretty enough or interesting enough or good enough. He cheated because he was broken. Because he was selfish. Because he wanted everything and didn't care who he hurt to get it. And once I understood that, really understood it, I stopped carrying his shame. These days, I wake up in my little apartment and make myself coffee. I go downstairs to the bakery and greet my employees. I knead dough and frost cakes and chat with customers who've become friends. At night, I paint or read or curl up on the couch with Daniel and watch terrible reality TV. It's a simple life, a quiet life, but it's mine. Entirely, completely mine. And that's the thing about betrayal, it takes everything from you. Your trust, your security, your sense of self. But if you let it, if you survive it, it gives you something too. Clarity, strength. The unshakable knowledge that you can survive anything. So if you're reading this, if you're in the middle of your own betrayal, you're on heartbreak, I want you to know something. You will survive this. I know it doesn't feel like it right now. I know the pain feels endless and suffocating. But it's not. One day, you'll wake up and realize you didn't think about them first thing in the morning. One day you'll laugh without feeling guilty. One day, you'll look in the mirror and recognize yourself again. Maybe even like yourself. And one day, someone will ask if you're glad it happened, and you'll say yes. Because you'll like who you became after too. The woman I am now isn't the woman I was in that yellow dress. She's better, stronger, more whole. She knows what she deserves. And she refuses to settle for anything less. So here's to the yellow dresses we threw away. To the chocolate cakes we wasted on the wrong people. To the photographs that shattered our worlds and rebuilt them into something better. Here's to surviving. And more importantly, to thriving. Because the best revenge isn't anger or bitterness. It's becoming so genuinely happy that you forget they ever had the power to hurt you in the first place. And I'm there now. Finally, beautifully, completely there. If that's not a happy ending, I don't know what is.